Doing all right?
Mr. Eccles, let's start by talking about something that you just told us on direct examination.
Okay, sure.
So that on August 30th, you were at the park during the time of that robbery, right?
Objection, Your Honor, it's argumentative for her to characterize it as a robbery rather than an alleged robbery. For her to say definitively that this robbery happened.
I can rephrase. Mr. Eccles, you were at the park on August 30th around 8 p.m.
Yes, I was.
That's when you were sitting on the bench about 35 feet from that ticket booth.
Yes, I was.
I just want to make something very clear. You couldn't actually see the ticket booth from where you were sitting, right?
No, that's not correct.
Your Honor, I'm approaching opposing counsel with the witness's affidavit.
Sorry, which slide were you
Permission to approach the witness. Mr. Eccles, I just handed you your affidavit. Could you please take a look at that for us?
Yeah, this is my affidavit. It's got my signature on the back.
That's your name on the front.
Lou Eccles, yep.
It doesn't appear to be altered in any way.
I hope not. No, ma'am, it doesn't.
And you're aware that you had up to 24 hours before today's trial to make any changes to this document, right?
Yeah, that's what they told me.
I'd like you to turn to page 6. I'm going to have you read silently as I read out loud. And then I'm going to ask you if I read that portion correctly.
Sure.
Starting with line 124. The next thing I knew, Poole was running past me, Thomas was running after him, and some person with a badge was running after both of them. I didn't see what started it, but I heard later it was because there had been a robbery. Did I read that portion correctly?
Yeah, exactly. As my attorney asked, I didn't see anything happen.
Your Honor, permission to approach the witness to retrieve that document?
Sure.
Now, Mr. Eccles, I want to talk a little bit about how the park is laid out, and I've brought a map along.
Okay.
Your Honor, I'm approaching opposing counsel with what has been marked as State's Exhibit 3. And permission to approach the witness with that same document?
You may. And anytime you inquire about a document you've already given the witness, you don't need to ask to go back and forth or to retrieve it. You can just take it,
Yes, Your Honor.
What's this? Okay.
as long as it's not in the witness's hands.
Yes, Your Honor. Now, Mr. Eccles, you recognize that to be a map of Rochter World, correct?
Yeah, this is the map we hand out to customers, complete with the cartoon drawings and such.
Well, Mr. Eccles, that does appear to be a fair and accurate copy of the map of the park.
Yes, ma'am, it does.
Well, Your Honor, at this time, the State moves to admit into evidence States 3.
None, Your Honor.
All right, so admitted.
Mr. Eccles, can you also take a look at States 3A for me? Does that appear to be the same copy as you have in your hand?
Looks like it.
All right, well, Mr. Eccles, let's talk about how the park is laid out. The main entrance of the park, that's at point 14, the ticket booth, correct?
Yeah, right there, that's the main entrance, that's the ticket booth.
So when customers come and purchase their wristband, that's how they come in the park.
That's the way, yes, ma'am.
And at the end of the night, at point 14, that's where customers leave.
Yes, ma'am.
Now around the rest of the park, there's a 15-foot fence, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
So, and then at the back of point 8, the Tunnel of Terror, there's an employee access door, correct?
Yes, ma'am, there is.
So unless you wanted to climb that 15-foot fence, the only way you could get in or out of the park is either at point 8 or point 14.
That's correct. I wouldn't recommend trying to climb the fence.
Now, Mr. Eccles, I want to talk about something that you did 2 days before August 30th. On August 28th, you started making some changes to the way you secured the park at the end of the night, right?
You're going to have to be a little bit more specific.
Well, for the last 2 hours, you started patrolling point 14, the main ticket booth.
Yeah, I wanted to make sure that Winston had it all under control up there. He was getting old at the time, and I wanted to make sure that he had somebody there in case he needed it.
Mr. Eccles, that means that if somebody were leaving the park around closing, they'd have to walk past security.
Yeah, we had a guy up there for that express purpose.
More specifically, if they were leaving the park, they'd have to walk past you, right?
Yes, ma'am, that's right.
Well, another change that you made was you installed a padlock at the door at point 8, right?
That's right.
You locked down that access door at the Tunnel of Terror.
Yes, ma'am, we want to keep people from coming in the back gate.
Now, on August 28th, you went to the Tunnel of Terror to install that lock, right?
Yes, ma'am, there had been a lock on the door previously, but I don't think it had been maintained, so I needed a new one. I bought it at Lowe's and put it on there.
And that was on August 28th.
That's right.
And on that day, you saw the defendant. She was was operating the Tunnel of Terror, right?
Yeah, she was.
So when you got to the ride, you asked her to stop the ride, right?
That's right.
And that's when the defendant asked you if you wanted the ride in blackout mode.
I think so, yeah.
You told her, no, you wanted the ride to stop.
Yes, ma'am.
You told her you wanted the lights to stay on.
That's right, I had to see what I was doing.
That's when you watched Miss Bowman, she hit a red button on that control panel.
That's correct.
You watched as all the ride stopped.
That's right.
You watched as all the lights stayed on.
That's what the button does, yes. So when she pressed it, that all happened.
And you watched as all of the customers got off of that ride.
That's right.
Then you went to the back of the tunnel and you installed that lock, right?
Yeah, it's just one long process here.
And the defendant, she came back and watched you install that lock.
Yes.
Now you would agree that the way to remove that lock would be to use a key.
That's probably the easiest method, yes.
On August 28th, you gave the defendant that key.
Yeah, it's supposed to stay with the ride operator, so it was the ride operator I gave with the key.
On August 28th, you gave her the key.
Yeah, that's what I just said.
Thank you. I have nothing further.
Very briefly, Your Honor. Mr. Essex, you were just telling us on August 28th that you asked